Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening to me from around the world, and welcome to winter. Yes, we've had our first snow up and down and across the UK, but more about the seasonal change a bit later in the programme. If this is your first time joining on a Friday morning, this is JFI Radio, and I am Yousepha Fawcett. I'm your host, and I'm broadcasting to you around the world live. Yes, it's 9 a.m. here in the UK, and I'm not sure what time it is where you are, but I'm really grateful to you for joining me. So, for those of you who have been here each and every week, you know that this live podcast, I like to bring you stories. I bring you stories from my week of what I've been doing across the professional areas that I work in. And there's quite a few because over the years I've honed a few specialities, shall we say. I get very involved in lifelong learning. That really is at the very heart of everything that I do. But over the last couple of years, I've been dipping my toe into open education and OER and AI, both in education and in the corporate training world. Now, my subjects tend to be around management and leadership, but also quality and excellence. And each week when I prep for this broadcast, I look just that little bit deeper into the kind of news stories that I think you might be interested in around those topics. And I suppose I look for things that you might not have seen. And I look for things across each continent as well. So I bring you that little bit of learning and education and quality and management and leadership and AI and open education, just that little bit closer to you every Friday morning. Now, I know that if the news items whet your appetite and you want to know more, then you can go to my website. So I'm just going to turn this way and I'm going to go to the ticker and I'm going to make sure that you have that showing on the screen. By the way, do you like my new background? I decided that I would switch things up a little bit. So I've gone all dark with some movement in the background. Hope you like it. I just thought it was very fitting for a change. Let me know what you think, because on that dashboard just there, hello, on that dashboard there, I can see if you're talking to me or not. And I'll tell you a bit about that in a moment. But just look at the ticker at the bottom. If you want to know the sources of the news that I bring you every single week, then go to my website. It is jfiradio.com. Scroll down on that page and you'll see a great big blue button that takes you to the replays and the news links for each broadcast. So within about half an hour after I finish and come off air, I put those links in for you and you can then check out and see what the sources are, and if you like them or you don't like them or it gets you thinking about other things. Either way, it's there for your delight. Now, if you want to talk to me, I've got my dashboard here on the left. I mentioned many times that I don't have a big team doing all of this in the background. It is just me. So I am my own sound engineer and I change the tickers and I change all of the things that I want to say to you. Let's change that one. Let's change that notification. There we go. You can talk to me using chat on either YouTube, if you're listening to me on YouTube, or on Facebook. LinkedIn, you can still watch me live, but they haven't synced up with this live broadcasting platform yet. So any messages you put in LinkedIn will be after the live broadcast. But if you put something in now or throughout the broadcast on YouTube or in Facebook, it'll come up on my screen and I will give you a shout out. And obviously, I'll answer your question as well. So let's get started with the week and go from there. Now, I usually start by telling you what I have been up to this week. So it's been, I'm not going to say a quiet week, but it's been a quieter week. So I've only been doing 3 things as opposed to 33 things that I usually do. So I've been delivering some online training for a client. I have been working over at my College of Esports in East London. I know that some of the gang are listening, so hey, good morning to you all. Hope you're okay over there and you're not too cold. You've got enough jumpers on. And I've been working with the team over there, and we've been collaborating and creating a new, this is going to be so exciting, a new combined gaming degree. Now, I'm really new to the world of gaming and esports, but I'm learning fast. I'm a fast learner. Do you know what? I think that's why I changed my background. It's rather cool, isn't it? All that black and then the red and the blue in the background. I now know why I've changed that, because that was just this morning, deciding to do that. And I now realise why. Because the games rooms, the rooms where a lot of the students go for some of their classes, but also to do the gaming, are dark and they're blue, and the lights are shimmering and shining from the sparkly keyboards. And that's what that new background reminds me of. It reminds me of being over there. So there you go, a little bit of another shout out for that, and a bit of a nod towards my College of Esports. I cannot wait till we do the final bits and pieces regarding this new gaming degree with different pathways. Even I'm excited, but I'm really nervous, because if I start getting involved in gaming, it's going to be so addictive. My family are just never, ever going to see me, but there you go. And there's one other thing I've been doing. I've been conducting an excellence assessment. Let's get back down to earth now, so I move away from my gaming and my excitement. I've been conducting an excellence assessment with a client overseas. And that's been really, really interesting. I do it every year with this particular client, but in different departments, different areas. And each time I do it, I learn something new. And whereas I can't divulge details, I can bring some of the learning to this broadcast or future broadcasts. But definitely, it is something that I find exciting. Anyway, what I also do is I talk to you about a couple of topics each week. And one is before the news, and we have the news in the middle of the broadcast, and it's global news, and one is after the news. And this one before the news is all about the topic of pay it forward. Pay it forward. Do you know what that is? Let me explain a little bit to you. Okay, so pay it forward, and I'm going to tell you a story. Let me go back on myself and tell you a story. So Monday this week, there I was sitting on a cold, empty rail station platform. It was 6 a.m. in the morning, and I was waiting for a train to take me to my College of Esports in East London. And everything, and I mean everything, was cancelled. So after all that, getting up early and rushing, and I'd left home at 5:30 a.m. because I usually get to the station so I can nab what I call my good parking space, which is right at the very, very end, and I can nudge the car over and make sure that anyone who parks next to me doesn't open their car door on me, because you know how narrow those car parking spaces are at train stations. Anyway, so do you know what? I bought my ticket. I looked up at the screen. It said everything was cancelled because the roadworks had run overtime. So I was sitting there contemplating, probably sitting there in the cold for what was likely to be at least an hour. And this is a small station, and they've got no coffee kiosks at all. And I think the lady in the ticket office must have seen my crestfallen face I was just like, seriously, I was just feeling cold and tired. And you know what she did? Without prompting, she went into her back office and she came out with a steaming hot mug of coffee. I have never been so grateful for that drink. As I'd left home so early, I hadn't even had a drink or anything. And normally I was thinking, well, once I'm on the train, I get the other end, I can grab myself a drink. Oh, I could have hugged her. It was wonderful. I'm sure other people, as they came in the station, were looking at me thinking, oh my goodness, how come she's got a cup of coffee? I managed to remember to turn the microphone off just for that cough. It's going. It's nearly going. For those of you that have been with me the last 3 weeks, you know that I have had some terrible, terrible coughing fits, but it is going. But I now know where to press on the dashboard to make sure that you don't have to hear me coughing into the microphone. So I do apologise for those earlier broadcasts. Anyway, fast forward to 9 a.m. and I was in East London, finally, and I was standing at the bus stop. And now I've got a bus. I found a bus that gets me a bit nearer to the Queen Elizabeth II Olympic Stadium and the Velo Park, which is where my campus is. And in front of me in the queue was a young man, and he was asking nearly every passerby for 50 pence. He just explained to them he was hungry, he'd left home early, and he was quite young, and he'd no money left. He had just enough for the bus, and everyone said no and hurried on past. And I looked in my purse, and normally, I mean, my purse is filled with cards. I don't carry money anymore, not since COVID, and I didn't expect to see anything in there. But guess what? I had one coin. You guessed it. It was a 50p. Fate. So I gave it to him as we got on the bus, and his eyes just brimmed, and my eyes just brimmed, and it was like a moment. If nothing else, I don't care if I was scammed or not. It was 50 pence. But I have a feeling, a sense that, yeah, he was hungry, and he was young. And I thought, if I give him 50p, it's no big deal, is it? And that was my pay it forward for the day. I had had one act of kindness given to me in the morning, and I just translated it into another act of kindness to someone else. Now, this pay it forward thing isn't new. I mean, it goes back to ancient times when it was first used. I did some research and I actually found it had been mentioned in a Greek play, Dyskolos, from 317 BC, would you believe? And since then, there have been books, and there's a film, great film if you've never seen it, the Pay It Forward film. It's quite old now, but you really should have a look. It's really quite cool. And it's a very simple, but it's a very human approach to being kind to each other, especially after someone's been kind to you. But, if I tell you how it works, it's simple. Let's just not overthink this, okay? Someone does something kind for you. You haven't asked for it necessarily, but it's happened. So they performed a good deed out of the blue. Now, instead of returning the favour directly to them, which you'd normally think, well, what can I do for you in return? You pass it on, you pay it forward, and you help someone else. Now, the strict rule is you help 3 people. And then you ask them to do the same. But in this case, I was just in the moment, and I just gave this young lad 50 pence, and I didn't give him the spiel of, now you have to do something nice for other people. But I have a feeling that maybe, just maybe, he will feel good, and then if he sees somebody needing something, it doesn't have to be money, but some kind of help, he might do the same. And that's what it does. It creates this kind of ripple effect, and it's just fabulous, and it can lead to more acts of kindness. And yes, if you did want to do the traditional go and do it for 3 other people, then yes, why not? Please do. But even if you can just pass it on to somebody, you're doing pay it forward. So there you go. That was my first part of the show today. Who are you going to pass it forward for, pay it on? What are you going to do? I mean, are you going to start the process of pay it forward? Maybe you could start it and do something just random to help someone you know. Maybe they look like they're having one of a meh day. Do you know what I mean by a meh day? Whenever I'm doing online training, I'm often talking to my groups and saying, do you know, is anybody feeling a bit meh? And it is just, you know what I mean. You've woken up or something's happened and it's just not a good day and you can't put your finger on it. You just feel meh. So if you notice someone that's having a meh day, then why not start the pay it forward? You might tell them to pass it on, or they just might do it instinctively. Can you imagine what the world might be like if we all did the pay it forward? Well, it made my morning. And yes, I was still cold, but I was smiling too. Okay, so that's the first part of the show today. You know what comes next. I brought you my news. What about the news from around the world? Let's find out. I'm going to take you over to the JFI Radio newsroom today, Friday, the 22nd of November. Here are the latest global news headlines. Enjoy.
You're listening to JFI Radio Live. Here's the latest training and learning news from around the globe.
From JFI Radio Newsroom, here are the latest global news headlines. North America. The Cochrane U.S. Health Equity Mentoring Program has welcomed its largest cohort to date for Year 4, with 30 mentees from 19 countries participating in a year-long program focused on advancing health equity through evidence-based healthcare. This initiative demonstrates a growing commitment to global collaboration in healthcare education. These events highlight the ongoing focus on innovative learning technologies and international collaboration in training and education across North America. South America. Brazil's tech sector is booming, driven by artificial intelligence advancements. A recent survey shows nearly 3/4 of Brazilian companies are investing in AI, focusing on automation and data analysis. Major tech players like Google and Microsoft are expanding operations in the country, while the government aims to train 100,000 professionals in AI and data science by 2026. This growth has attracted significant investment, with over £530 million pouring into the startups. Brazil is poised to become a key player in the global tech landscape. Europe and the UK. A new report from the World Economic Forum reveals how artificial intelligence is revolutionizing education. AI can tailor learning paths for individual students, free up teacher time by automating admin tasks, and make education more accessible for disadvantaged groups. To make this a reality, the report calls for investment in AI-powered learning platforms, training for educators to integrate AI effectively, ensuring AI ethics and transparency. By harnessing AI, we can unlock human potential and bridge the education gap. Africa. African businesses are adopting innovative HR strategies to combat talent attrition and retain skilled workers amid a growing young workforce. Companies are offering competitive compensation, flexible work arrangements, and robust career development programs to enhance employee satisfaction. Partnerships between multinationals and universities aim to nurture local talent, while firms like Vodafone Ghana invest significantly in skills development. Digital transformation is also playing a vital role, with countries like Nigeria and Mozambique leading in hybrid work models. Despite regional variations, the focus remains on creating engaging work environments and offering tailored benefits to attract and retain Africa's brightest minds. Asia. AI could change the gaming industry. The gaming sector is experiencing significant benefits from the AI boom, with Chinese gaming companies leading the charge in utilizing AI tools for game development. AI is being employed for various tasks, including creating animations, generating realistic 3D backgrounds, game development testing, and creating game missions. This trend is expected to enable faster and more cost-effective game releases, potentially leading to an increase in the number of games produced per year. The Middle East. The Middle East is experiencing a significant transformation in its hiring practices, driven by the rapid adoption of artificial intelligence. The AI market in the MENA region is projected to grow from £395 million in 2020 to £6.6 billion by 2026. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are leading this change, with AI expected to contribute substantially to their GDPs. The technology is revolutionizing various sectors, including recruitment, where AI-powered tools are streamlining processes, such as resume screening and candidate matching. However, challenges remain, including ethical concerns and the need for upskilling. Despite these hurdles, the integration of AI in HR practices is set to continue, promising increased efficiency and improved decision-making across the region. Australia and New Zealand. And finally, the Open Education Global 2024 conference took place in November in Brisbane, Australia. Co-hosted by several prominent institutions, this annual event brought together key figures in open education from around the world. The theme, Open is everyone's business, underscores that openness in education is a collective responsibility, extending beyond educators to encompass entire institutions and communities. The conference fostered discussions on current trends, challenges and opportunities in open education, featuring keynotes, presentations and action labs. It serves as a crucial platform for networking and collaboration, advancing open solutions to enhance access, participation, and success in education. That's been your Global Weekly News Roundup. Please come back and join me next week. I hope you enjoyed that, and a lot of really interesting news to report to you this week. Now, let me just change that ticker. There you go. If you're listening to this on replay, then of course you can catch up with all the news and also all the other podcasts that I do, because I do things that are not live as well, from events, and I've got a wonderful selection from this year. I have to say, some really, really interesting podcasts from Dubai, from Rotterdam, and I have to tell you, it's the way I'm moving forward. I'm going to events and I'm podcasting, and the other one that I nearly forgot to mention was in Geneva with Globe Ethics. That was an ICDE. That was just the most amazing. There were 35 new podcasts just from February to June. So on the screen, you can see the ticker will come round again. Don't worry. So what's happening is the back episodes of all of that, including my brand new baby sister to JFI Radio, which is Podcast Pearls, but that I'll tell you about another show. So tinyurl.com/JFIR Spotify. You can hear everything on there. Alternatively, you can go to my website, jfiradio.com. And that's where, as I mentioned before, you can get the big blue button to take you to the replay and the links for all the news. And of course, I have to ask you, please subscribe to me on my YouTube channel. I just noticed I got another subscriber today, so I am just one more step forward, closer to achieving 100 subscribers by the end of the year. That might not sound a lot to you, clever influencers, but for me, this is going to be fantastic. So yes, please do subscribe if you're listening and you haven't subscribed already. That would be just amazing for you to do so. Now, if you want to chat with me, let me put that up there. There we go. You can talk to me using chat on YouTube or on Facebook. Let me just see if there are any chats in there or any comments. And Bill, who's Matt, he's got two names. Bill Matt, oh, thank you. Do you know what? I have to tell you, everyone, Matt is the son of a close friend of ours, and he's a lovely young man and has been so interested in JFI Radio almost from the very, very start. He is my number one JFI Radio fan. And then he went and got himself married. So best wishes to you both. And I hope you're having a lovely time. And he's come back. So he had everything else, his work to focus on, his new wife to focus on, and he's come back to support me on JFI Radio by tuning in and listening. So good morning to you, Matt. Thank you so very much for being there. Now, another very strong supporter. There she is. Oh, Nkechi. Hello. There's Nkechi, my friend Nkechi. We met over at the University of Westminster, what must be 7, 8, 9 years ago. You have to write in the chat and tell me. I can't remember. But you're listening from Port Harcourt in Nigeria. What's the weather like over there? Are you on the golf course again? She takes me with her on the golf course on Friday mornings when she can. I'm not sure I improve her game anything, but she does listen. Maybe she's smiling as she takes me and she's listening. So Nkechi and Matt, thank you both for your ongoing support. I'm just so grateful to you. So after the news, I go into another aspect of something that I'm really interested in sharing with you. And this is now a shout out to my lovely buddy, my friend, Dr. Linda Shaw. Linda, I know you're busy working this morning. You probably can't tune in live, but just so that you know, I am giving you a shout out. Now, Linda is not only my friend, she's an eminent neuroscientist, and she wrote the most fabulous post in LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, all about how the seasonal changes affect us and how it affects our work, it affects our personal lives. And because she is a neuroscientist, she talks a lot about the body and the brain and how it works in rhythms. And of course, if you want to know more about rhythms, then you could Google circadian rhythms and see how that affects our highs and lows, our ebbs and flows throughout our working day. And what she started writing about, it really struck a chord with me, about how being in sync with nature is extremely healthy. So what she started to highlight was that in winter, we hibernate. In spring, we bounce around with creating and with energy. In summer, we embrace growth. And in the autumn, we harvest and shed things that no longer serve us. And she asked us a question. Do we make our lives and businesses harder by constantly operating in this thing called growth mode, where we are chasing the next dollar, chasing the next pound, chasing the next euro? We are constantly looking for improvement and growth. And she made me ponder. She made me think about this. And I asked my new friend, Perplexity AI, this question, and they offered me an answer. They said that operating in constant growth can indeed make our lives and businesses harder in several ways. And if I go through these ways, you might think, oh, well, yeah, that could be me. That could relate to me. And so these are the drivers that make us want to constantly be in growth mode. I just got a message from my son who's listening on his walk to work. James, good morning. Now, James, you will hear every single JFI radio, because my James is the voiceover for the news element, and he's the one that's introducing it. So James, good morning to you. I hope it's not too cold up there in the middle of England as you're walking to work, but I'm so pleased that amongst all of your other podcasts you are listening to the Mama's podcast, so thank you. So let's just go back over what Perplexity said about what can happen if we're constantly looking for growth. One is about burnout and stress. Now, if none of you have ever had burnout, I hope to goodness you don't get it, because I've had it twice. It is not fun. With one of my last organizations, there was this constant pushing for achievement of things, and without the systems and processes in place to underpin all of the activity, it made things so much more stressful. And I had burnout twice, and it really does impact on you in terms of your physical health and your mental health. The other thing Perplexity said was about finances. You know, we're chasing the money. We, in this economic climate, we have to do things that we can to keep going, but it's that constant profitability business model. Don't get me wrong, it's really important for business for lots and lots of different reasons, but we have to understand the ebb and flow of that as well. It also mentioned something about operational challenges and the weaknesses that can create problems that we didn't know were there. That can certainly push us harder and harder into always on mode. Short-term thinking, definitely. I see this more in organizations that I work with on the regular, where we're not getting used to thinking far enough ahead about the implications of what we do. So we're getting people to do things in a reactive way. You might want to listen back to my podcast from last week, because I was actually talking about responsive and reactive management. So you can remind yourself by popping into that one. That also leads to this lack of focus. If we don't have a focus, it pushes us to be really doing scattergun and doing all sorts of things at exactly the same time. And again, it's that always on, it's that constant growth. And finally, Perplexity said, we tend to neglect other things that are important in our life. By emphasizing too much on the growth side, we neglect some of the things. Now, in business, it might be customer satisfaction or employee development, but in personal, I would say maybe we neglect life, and maybe we neglect some of the people around us. So thank you, Perplexity. That was a very interesting insight. But I want to go back to Linda's post and her thoughts, some of which I'm going to try. And so I'm going to share this with you, and maybe you're going to want to try some of them as well. So one of the things that she says is maybe think about your year in 4 parts. So maybe applying a rhythm to the year, or a rhythm to the working week, or a day, or maybe even projects. And that helps us shift away from this treadmill, this always on treadmill, and breaking things down. Now, this breaking a project down into the 4 seasons is something I might use straight away, because I have an NGO partner in Norway. So big shout out, Andres. How are you? I know it's getting cold over there. I can't wait to see you in January. But I will bring some extra clothes because I think it's going to be very cold. Now we're getting together to write a new project proposal for the European Commission. And so they're going to submit that in March. So don't be too surprised if, Andres, if I start talking about incubation for the winter period, creation for the spring period, growth for the summer period, and harvest and shedding the things that are not working for the autumn period. So don't be too surprised. Our project might take on our project document might take on a really different feel regarding this, but I am going to try. So I think this is a great idea, Linda. And, farmers, if you talk to farmers, now I'm not a farmer, but if you talk to farmers, they're always looking for ways to harness like the seasons changes and the seasonal energies, particularly around renewables. So again, I went off and did a bit of desktop research, and I found 2 really interesting examples. I'm sure I could have found more if I'd had more time, but one was about a couple near the Welsh border who implemented ground source heat pumps. And it was a system that extends their blueberry growing season by 8 weeks. I'm thinking, hey, this is a really good idea. But then, even better than that, their heat pump generates energy, which then produces high quality equine feed. So they're demonstrating how renewable energy can support multiple revenue streams on the farm. I'm thinking, how cool is that? And then the other one is about harvest moon ceremonies and seasonal energies. Yes, you are still on the same, right, podcast. This is still JFI Radio. But apparently farmers traditionally align their practices with lunar cycles, such as the harvest full moon. Which, by the way, just symbolizes like new beginnings and enhances energy around harvest time. And they connect to natural cycles, which apparently fosters deeper relationships with the land and influences the planting and the harvesting schedules. Like, who knew? I didn't know. But this is why I love research so much. This is why I've got this inquiring mind that just keeps on going. It says, I want to know more. Linda, thank you, because that article really prompted me to look into a lot of things. Well, can you believe it? Oh my goodness, time has flown by yet again, and it's time to put on a few more winter jumpers here in the studio and perhaps incubate myself for the rest of the winter as I feel a new writing idea coming on. Now, just before I tell you about that, let me put a different ticker up, because I would really love to hear about some of your ideas about news. So I've put up on the screen my email address, studio@jfiradio.com. Why not send me your news reports and I can feature them here on the channel? And I'd love to hear what you have to say, and please contribute with me as best you can. That would be fantastic. I'm going to pop that back up as well, just to keep reminding you to please subscribe to this channel. I'm feeling more influencer-like every single day and every time I do this. So back to this new writing idea I've got. Well, I've had a real incubation moment this last couple of weeks. And as a result, I'm going to be releasing 4 new and totally unique playbooks early in January. Now, these are a follow-on from my first self-published digital living book called Real Empathic Learning. That was back in 2021. And I always wanted to do a series of follow-ons that took the concept of real into a more detailed deep dive, but a very practical way, not a theoretical academic book, but something that people could pick up and use. So I am setting them up. I've written 2 of the playbooks already. I've got the other 2 to write. So that's covering the REAL. And I'm setting this up and they'll be available from January. But here's the cool bit. I'm going to set up that the proceeds from the sales, and there'll be small prices, of each of the playbooks will go to 4 different charities that mean a great deal to me. But I'll tell you more about that in another broadcast. It looks like my time is up. Let me change the ticker on the bottom of the screen. If I need to get back to work, you need to get back to work. But definitely come and join me next week. I'm here every Friday at 9 a.m. UK time, unless something unique is happening on the Friday, in which case I'll either change the time or I'll change the day if it's something that I can't get out of. But next week, I'll be here at 9 a.m. on Friday, the 29th of November. And that's 9 a.m. UK time. I want to wish you a fabulous weekend. And whatever you're doing, wrap up warm, please. Keep safe. And I look forward to seeing you maybe on screen. Maybe I'll hear more from you in the chat. But either way, thank you, as ever, for your ongoing support. So have a great weekend. Bye for now. JFI Radio.